Welcome to my cozy corner. So, you all know me as Callie from Callie's Bookish Rambles, and I've been on a little bit of a hiatus, you would say. I started my Bookstagram in 2017, and so, what I found is it's not the same space anymore. I feel like everything that I read is not what's talked about or shared on Book Talk, on Bookstagram. And so it's really hard for me to kind of feel like I'm relevant. And when I started my Bookstagram, that's not what I wanted. And if you look up my account, you'll see I have a lot of followers. Are they active? Who's to say? Because the algorithm has kind of ruined any of my audience seeing what I post. And so I've been taking the year of 2024 to really find my passion for reading again. And so what I found over the years of being a reader is that I love challenges. And so I challenged my partner, who we're about to get married in April. So we've been together almost 5 years now. So it's been a long time. And he's seen my progression of my reading tastes and everything like that. And so with that, I thought it'd be fun in December to challenge him to have full reign of my collection. I have 1,000+ books, and 700 or so of those are not read. And obviously it's not gonna take a quick amount of time for me to read them all, but I do want to touch some of the books that I have in my collection for sure. So I gave him free reign. I said, pick 10 books at random from my collection, wrap them up because it's the holidays, put them under the tree. And when I was ready to pick a new book at the beginning of December, I opened the first one. And once I finished that, I opened the second one, and so on and so forth. And so I wanted to kind of get into the books that he picked for me and my thoughts with them, and kind of just my thoughts on this challenge and what I learned from it. So if you chill with that, let's get into it. So I originally, whenever this video gets posted, I wanted to kind of have it be right from the beginning of December and show you guys as the month went on the progress and everything. But as of right now, I'm on book 6 out of the 10, and it is currently December 19th as to the date of me recording this little snippet video. So yeah, I've been really killing it, and I'm kind of surprising myself because with him, our running joke here is he'll buy a book for me, I read it, and I don't really enjoy it. Or he chooses a book out of like 3 that I show him, and the one he picks, I move on and read like 5 other books before picking that one back up. So this was a real challenge for both of us of like, can he successfully pick books I'd want to read? And so far, he's done pretty well. I think he's picked a variety, like a diverse variety of titles for me, and each one has been exciting and different, and it's been like slow moving or quick moving and different pacing, and it's just been really awesome. So the first book I opened up is one that has been on my TBR for a short amount of time, like not too long. Came out in I believe 2023. Yeah, 2023, so last year. And that is A Starlet's Secret to a Sensational Afterlife. Now, Kendall Culper, she's local to where I live in Massachusetts. And I work at a bookstore, and so she has come in and signed some stock at points. And I only read her first book of this kind of noir, early 1900s books. And the first one, Murder for the Modern Girl, was really cool, really interesting. But this one appealed to me more because I love old Hollywood. I love anything with celebrity drama, with actresses or musicians. So this has always been higher on my radar. And what I loved about this one, so ratings, I'll give ratings too. I usually do out of 5 stars. This one I gave a 4 out of 5. The two main characters were really entertaining. This is set in the 1930s, and the main girl character, Henrietta, she wants to be a starlet. She wants to be an actress, and so she gets the chance to work for this like well-acclaimed Hollywood studio, and she's being made up to be this next big star. The male character, I'm blanking on his name because I never remember names, Declan, he is a stuntman, and he's just trying to make it back home and live comfortably, and he has no interest in fame whatsoever. And their two paths get unexpectedly crossed. And the other twist here is that they both have powers. So Declan, our Mr. Stuntman, can never get hurt, even though he may be impaled from falling off a building or trampled on, he won't get hurt. And Henrietta can see the ghosts of our missing starlet actresses of the past that have worked and starred in movies at this Hollywood studio. And so they work together to try and uncover the mystery of these missing actresses, and it was really fun. I think my struggle with it was in regards to a little bit of the pacing, and as well as the details weren't as flourishing as I would have wanted, but overall, a very fun read and exactly what I was looking for. So we kicked off the month on a high, and that had me like really buzzing. And so the second book that I picked up comes out in February of next year, and that's All the Blues in the Sky by Miss Renee Watson. And I have never read a full-length novel by Renee Watson, like prose, but I know that she has such craft in a young adult middle grade sphere. And so one of my coworkers had given me an arc of this book, and I was interested, but I wasn't going to pick it up anytime soon. And so it was really interesting for this to be the next one out of the 10. And this is a novel in verse, a little bit of prose, that follows a young 12-year-old girl who is grieving the loss of her best friend. And she's in a support group with a couple of other girls in her grade that are grieving the loss of a loved one in some capacity, whether they knew it or not. And I loved the exploration of emotion. I loved the writing style very much so. It was very quick. I read through verse novels really quick because I personally am there more for the story than the craft of writing in verse. However, some novels really do a successful job of blending both aspects and making both really exceptional. And so this book, as good as it was, as great as it was reading it, I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5, or it might have also been a 4 out of 5. Like, not terrible. And I think for young girls or young people that are going to be grieving at a young age, this is definitely a great resource for that in a fictional, more relatable way. So I was very, very satisfied with All the Blues in the Sky by Renee Watson. And now book number 3 out of the 10. I finished the first 2 on the same day because one was a breeze and the other one I was almost done with after starting it at the beginning of that week. And so I was ready. I was like ready to move on to book 3. I was super pumped and just anxious to get into the next one. And I opened up The Ballad of Darcy and Russell by Morgan Matson. And the premise of this is exactly what I love in books. And this follows a young girl who's about to go to college, and the weekend before, she goes to a music festival, but the day that she's supposed to go back, the bus breaks down. And so she's stuck at this bus station. She doesn't have money. Her phone's almost dead. She doesn't have a phone charger. And so she's kind of at a loss. And then a couple points her in the direction of a young teen boy and is like, he may have a phone charger. You should ask him. And she's just starstruck. Like, or not really starstruck, but just love struck is more what it is. And it's like a love at first sight dealio. Not so much a fan of love at first sight unless it's super well done, like super believable in the love at first sight type of deal. I get instant attraction, but something about love at first sight is a little too out there. Not out there. I'm sure you get what I'm saying. But so I was ready for this. Like, it takes place in one night, and it's supposed to be adventurous, and it's supposed to be like lighthearted. And I just love more mature YA. I mean, I'm an early adult or a young adult, but more in my 20s. And so, reading upper YA is more appealing to me because I'm older. So there's that. But I could not get through the first 40 pages. This was so far the only DNF that I have of this month. And the reason for it is the dialogue was just so excruciating right away. Like, and to have it be insta love, it's always just not gonna pan out the greatest because you need time to figure out everything about a person. You can't just immediately jump into something and have it be the rest of your life unless, for some people it does work out. But like, there was this one scene where the male character Russell and Darcy, the girl main character, are talking about musicals. And she's like, I've only seen Hamilton. And he's like, you've only seen Hamilton? Like, this pish posh, like, I'm better than thou. And I just hate dialogue like that. Like, I hate any conversation like that. And he's like, I'm so sorry that I was so rude. I just want to be a composer in the future for musicals. And it was giving me the ick. It was giving me nothing good inside. And so I was like, if I have to slog through. Now, Morgan Matson, I've read most of her backlog, if not all of her previous titles, except for like her middle grade and the 2 recent YA books she's written. And it's just, they're middle of the road, not very good YA contemporary books. And so they're also super long. Like, YA contemporary to me should be 300 pages or less, because what are you writing if it's supposed to be lighthearted, fluffy romance, reads maybe contemporary books, that it has to be nearly 400 pages long. Like, this is something that I felt like I would slog through. And so I gave up on it. I have no intention of picking it back up. So I'm probably going to unhaul it from my collection. But it was good to get that feeling right away, because if I picked it up on my own, it probably would have put me in a reading slump. Whereas this is like, you can just DNF. You don't have to suffer through. And I was anxious to get to the other books. So it's like, the challenge I set for myself is, if I don't finish this one, or like, if I finish this one, then I could move on. But I was like, no, I just can't. I can't do that. So we're DNFing and we're unhauling The Ballad of Darcy and Russell, unfortunately. On to book 4 is another February 2025 release, And it was one that I picked up at work because I work in a bookstore and we get advanced reader copies, which is always so much fun. And I was super excited for this. I didn't think I would pick it up anytime soon. So the fact that he picked it for me, knowing my interests, of course, I was like, okay, all right, let's see how this goes. So that is Capitana by Cassandra James, and it's a YA fantasy inspired by like pirates in like the Floridian Islands, like that kind of area of the world and that kind of history. And so I was like, ooh, all right. I love pirate books, pirate narratives, betrayals like no other. That is my bread and butter. And so I saw this book. I was super excited. At first glance, thinking this is my most anticipated book of 2025. And I rated it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars, unfortunately. Now, when I mean pirates, I mean we're following pirates on their adventures, on their journeys. And unfortunately, this is not that kind of story. This follows a young girl who's the daughter of pirates. And she's attending a school where they hunt down pirates and, hang them or condemn them to jail, all this kind of stuff. And she is trying to kind of keep a good reputation because her parents were pirates and they got hanged for treason for being pirates. And the surrounding towns and islands, they love or they respect pirates. They want their freedom, which is, what kind of pirates are known for, is to be these free beings, free people that do what they want and live how they want and all that stuff. And so my issue with this, beyond the misleadingness of it, is that it was also a romance, and it did not need to be a romance, and I did not care for the love interest in the slightest. I thought he was not good, and they tried to give him redemption arcs, and it just was not, it was not cute. It was not fluffy. It was not endearing. It was kind of gross. And he's one of those drunkard, toxic boys that has an alpha male complex, and it didn't work out. And then the main character, she had some sort of appeal, I would say, but it wasn't anything substantial. Like, it just kind of was, and yeah, I was a bit disappointed. I, however, kind of anticipated it not being fulfilling like I would have wanted to, so it's kind of sad. But I did finish it, and that's definitely saying something. So that's book 4. And book 5, I also finished in the same day that I finished Capitana because it was another shorter read. So I had 2 really great weekends where I was able to finish 2 books in one day, both weekend days, or not weekend days, but weekend weeks, if you will. I work full time, so Tuesday through Saturday is all taken up with work, and I come home, I'm tired. I have no mental capacity to pick up a book, even though I may want to, and it's really tough for me. So the weekends are all reading. My partner, he is a gamer, and so he will play video games on our weekends, and it's really nice because I get to pick up books. And so the next one that he picked for me to read, number 5, is Once Upon an Eid, and it's a collection of stories regarding Eid, the celebration, and the hope and joy, and it's edited by S.K. Ali and Aisha Saeed, and I've read books from both authors. And so I'm familiar with their personal works and think that they're really good and very lighthearted and moving and wholesome and stuff like that. And so this collection appealed to me because I really want to love short stories, because it'll be a case where I read all of them in a collection and not all of them hit for me, and it makes it really hard for me to love the entire piece as a whole, because a couple won't fit the bill. And so I had high hopes for this one. I think I got misdirected somewhere where I thought this was a young adult book, but it's actually a middle grade, which is not a problem, because I think this would be a fantastic book for middle grade readers, which is like 8 to 12 years old. However, for the writing aspect, it was a little more aged down, because it's a middle grade, versus if it was a young adult, it might have been more substantial. However, for pacing, this went super fast for me, and that's why I finished it on the same day that I picked up that I finished Capitana. And so yeah, I was not surprised. I was definitely pleased that this book was pretty good, and I think it gave me a little more perspective on what Eid is, and how different cultures celebrate it different ways. And yeah, that was book number 5. And book number 6, I was very excited to get into the next one, because I'm familiar with his 2 latest novels, Beholder and The Honeys. And so, and I've seen him twice. I've gone to 2 of his launch events for both of those books, and he is one of the best authors that I have ever met, and I think he just puts on a show for his author launches. He had a drag queen at both of them, and I think that more authors should definitely have a drag queen do a performance at their launch event. Just saying. So that book is Reverie that my partner picked. And Reverie is a YA fantasy. It's not Ryan LaSala's debut book, but it is, I think, his second book after Bedazzled. And I'm a little over halfway. I have about 180 pages left, so God willing, I can finish this by tomorrow before the weekend, because there's just a curse. I have what I feel like is a curse, is that I'm not able to finish a book during the week or even pick up a book during the week anymore because of working full time and all of that. But let's hope that I get over myself and that I do pick it up and finish it by tomorrow. But Reverie is going to be so hard for me to explain. It's a YA fantasy where the main character, Kane, loses his memories of this one incident that causes a mill to catch on fire, and someone is dead or missing, this old woman painter or something like that. And the main character is confused as to what happened, and he catches a group of teens that apparently he had some friendship with or whatever, and they're called the Others. And there's these things called reveries that Kane finds himself getting sucked into at one point after learning about his relationship with these other teens. And it's a subterranean temple, and everyone in the gym or wherever he was is either a cannibal or in a cage in a secretary suit. It's very, very out there in its concept. And basically the reveries are dreams, but not dreams. You have to play the role that you're assigned to in the reverie, and Kane and the others are able to unravel the Reverie and return everybody back to the current reality that we're in. And there's supposed to be a villainous drag queen. There's weird magic-y things going on. Like, one of the others can erase memories. The other one is, like, super strong. The other one's super smart. And so it's really just a bizarre concept and really hard for me to describe. Like, everything else I've been able to, or that I've talked about so far, I could easily describe to you guys. But this one is a bit of a challenge. It's like, yeah, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around what's going on. It's not slow in its pacing, which is good for me. But it's not really quick either. It's also nearly 400 pages long, which thankfully I feel like it deserves that. But I can see where Ryan LaSala is very successful in his craft now than he was in this book and probably Bedazzled, the debut book. But his writing, his ideas are so imaginative and so, like, I don't know, I'm almost envious of how his concepts are coming to fruition. Like, it's almost like I wish I could do that like he can. But yeah, so we're on book 6. And I'm really hoping that I can continue to keep plowing through the rest of these books that my partner picked. I think he's doing a really good job for not going off anything, just pure what has he observed from me over the years and what sounds good to him. And he's picking things I kind of didn't anticipate him picking almost. But yeah, so I'll keep you posted, and I'm having a lot of fun. And this video is just meant to be a lot of fun for me to try and just talk about books and what makes them so awesome to me. But yeah. Hello. Okay. So it's about almost 6 p.m. where I am right now. And I am going to be trying to finish Reverie by Ryan LaSala tonight. It is a Friday and I just got out of work and it's snowing, very, very crappy roads. So it was a little difficult. Usually takes me about an hour driving to get home, and it's a lot. I've found that listening to booktube videos while I'm driving, not watching them, but listening to them is really nice, especially when I'm bored with what music I'm listening to right now. So yeah, my plan is to read in the time it takes before my fiance comes home. And I have my nice little reading chair here, so you can kind of see. I have a nice corner, got some paintings and everything that I did. So yeah, I am currently on page 220. So that's where I'm going to be starting off. And there is 393 pages. So about 170 pages left. And usually I can do that within about, like, give or take, like 2-3 hours. So hopefully I can finish it tonight and pick up book number 7. So that's the plan. I have my trail mix that one of my awesome employees had given to me as a little Christmas present, and it's very good. So yeah, that's my plan. Okay, so update on Reverie by Ryan LaSala. I just finished it. It's the day after the last clip where I said that I was trying to finish it. That same day, work kind of got in the way. So, unfortunately, it was delayed a day. But I did manage to finish it. And I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Very painful. This is actually his debut book, and it really shows. And I think what made me rate it so low was because I know what he's capable of now, which I guess I shouldn't be so harsh about it, but it was just so difficult to read. And maybe I shouldn't judge it so harshly, but I feel like for how it was executed, it just was such a slog in my mind to get through, especially the last 50 pages or so. It was extremely difficult for me. And usually the last 50 pages are not so challenging to get through. So I think the queer representation was good. I've definitely seen a lot better over the past couple years or so in queer lit. I think for a book that came out in 2020, it was definitely decent. I think the quality of writing within that year in particular definitely elevated the stakes for young adult lit. And yeah, not the greatest, and I'm probably going to unhaul it, unfortunately. I think it would help better, or it would aid better a queer teen that would appreciate this narrative a lot more than someone like me. And I do have a little free library that is at my parents' house because I'm in an apartment building and we can't have little free libraries outside our apartments, which is sad. I feel like apartment buildings should do something like that or allow something like that. But alas, I have one at my disposal. So this is definitely something I could put in there and hope that someone takes it one of these days. But yeah, so now that's book 6 out of 10. And I will let you know what book number 7 is. Okay. These are the remaining books we got. This one feels light. This one feels thin, which might be nice. And this is the hardcover that I'm saving for the end. I think it's going to be between these two. Open this one, I think. Oh, I'm intrigued. One Last Chance to Live, Francisco X. Stork. Hello. It is December 24th, Christmas Eve. If you celebrate, happy Christmas Eve. We've had a little journey into the 7th book, I believe. So I opened up One Last Chance to Live, which is about a teen who is in love with this girl, and he's taking a writing class that makes him write in a journal. And then he has a dream about his death, and the girl that he loved, she's passed away, and she was in that dream. And he wants this journal to be like his last great work if his dream told him he's gonna die. It was a very odd concept. And so I read 70 pages of it and decided this was not for me. Thankfully, it was just something that I found on the shelf at work, on our art shelf, and was like, maybe, because it's in a journal format, like the chapters are very short, and I love short chapters, and it's a young adult, and so I figured, sure, we'll just take it. So unfortunately, I made the decision that this was not for me, and I was going to move on, and I'm glad I did, because book number 8 is The Breakup List by Adib Khorram. And if you don't know this author, they wrote Darius the Great is Not Okay, which is one of my all-time favorite young adult novels. And so I read the sequel to that and thought it was okay. I don't think I've picked up another one of his books in a long time, if at all. And so grabbed this arc and didn't think I'd pick it up anytime soon, but I'm so glad I did. I literally woke up at 5 a.m. today and fooled around on my phone for like an hour and then decided, okay, I'm not going back to sleep. So got up, sat in this reading chair, and just read straight through the last 200 pages. It was so good, so cute. It's following Jackson, who's a stage manager, and this boy, Liam, is friends with his best friend, and he's kind of unsure about him, doesn't think that he's got the chops. He's a swimmer. He's auditioning for the next school musical, and he's like, he doesn't fit in this world. But sure enough, he's extraordinary in his audition and really wows Jackson. And so thus begins their relationship, their friendship. And Jackson's sister has a crush on him, and Jackson's sister is known to break up with boys or get broken up by really terrible guys, and she likes Liam. And so that really is the conflict point of this book, is both the brother and sister liking this one boy. But Jackson kind of holds off because he's like, that's my sister, you know, I want the best for her. And Liam's really a stand-up guy, so I'll just stay out of their way, right? But it's very clear from the beginning that Liam loves or really strongly crushes on Jackson from all the flirting. And the common thing is Liam would tuck in his tags that would stick up on the back of his shirt, which is so cute, but it was like repeated a little too much. But yeah, and so we just follow that kind of journey. Obviously some things were super predictable, like, but in a way where you kind of didn't want the predictable to happen. You're like, oh my gosh, please don't let all things go to crap. The one thing that is crucial to this book is Jackson writes breakup lists for his sister and just anyone that, you know, does either one of them wrong in a way. So like Jackson will write for one of Jasmine's, the sister's, very many exes, like bad at sports or something, like flaws that convince her that she should get over them and they're not worth her time and all that stuff. And so they're all kept in his stage manager binder. So I'm sure you can guess where all of this goes wrong. But I think it had an adorable end. There's one thing that I won't spoil that I feel like lowered my rating just a smidge. Like I gave it a 4.75. It was almost a 5, but because I'm a little petty and I can't get over certain things when people do anybody wrong in a particular way, I just couldn't get over something that happens in the conclusion. So otherwise, I highly recommend. I think if you're a theater kid, if you're queer, if you, oh, the other really awesome representation in this is that the main character is deaf, or I don't know how like what the actual term is, but he definitely has a hearing aid. When he turns it off, he can't fully hear, if hear at all, anybody. And he knows some ASL or I think it's BSL from his best friend whose parents are deaf, and Black, I believe. So yeah, I would definitely put this at one of the top YA that you could recommend these days. And yeah, so very solid, very happy. So with that, we are at I believe 6 books finished, 2 books DNF'd, and only one of those 6 books am I unhauling because it wasn't that great. So 5 out of the 10 so far I'm deciding to hold on to because I thought they were pretty good. And so book number 9, we're almost done, is a book that was another, just saw it on the ARC shelf, thought I'd grab it. Summer Fridays by Suzanne Rindell. And this is a You've Got Mail for a New Generation. And it's set in the days of AOL and Instant Messenger banter, about an editorial assistant who spends her summer Fridays with the person she least expects. So I'm very much intrigued. This is definitely outside of my age genre range, which is, I read a lot of young adult. This is more of an adult romance, if not an adult fiction. So I'm very intrigued, and we'll see. I have tonight, potentially, depending on how early we get back from my parents' house. And I have tomorrow morning, and then I have Thursday before I go back to work. But then I have one last weekend of December to hopefully finish this challenge. And I'm not going to pound or beat myself up over not finishing all 10, because that wasn't really the point of this challenge. It was more, can I read through these and see if I like them, like his choices, and just have some fun with it. So, book number 9. Hello. So, it is December 27th. There are now 3-4 more days left of the challenge, and we're doing pretty good. Yes, barring the 2 that I have not finished, but it was never really about finishing the full 10, like I mentioned. So with that, I finished book number 9, Summer Fridays by Suzanne Rindell, and this is the first 5-star of the entire challenge. I absolutely loved this. I ate it up so quickly. I think realistically I finished it in 2 days, and I would pitch this as a romance, but also an adult fiction, because there are elements that go beyond just the romance, like the main character's struggles with the publishing, like working in publishing and being an editorial assistant and kind of working in a toxic work environment in the late 90s. And so there's that. And I would also pitch it as, if you liked Funny Story by Emily Henry, and if you liked One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, I would recommend this. And the reason why I compare it to Funny Story is because it involves the main character Sawyer, who is engaged to her fiance, and it comes out that he may be cheating on her with his coworker. And the love interest of this book is the boyfriend of that coworker, and he is the one that brings it to Sawyer's attention that their partners may be cheating on them with each other. And I think, from what I remember with Funny Story, the main character of that book, her fiance or husband, I can't remember if they were married first or whatever, was cheating on her, and the boyfriend of the girl that was being cheated on her with falls for the main character. So the parallels of that, this isn't so much comedic as Funny Story. It definitely has some emotional elements to it, especially in the end, that nearly brought me to tears. I'm very hard to make tears produce from my eyes, if you will, with stories, but movies, the tears pour for sure. But the reason why I compare it to One Last Stop is because, like One Last Stop, this is also a love letter to New York City, and just an appreciation for the city, which I have yet to go see, and that is on the bucket list for my fiance and my's honeymoon, is to go to New York City. And so yeah, it was so good, and it was kind of a surprise that this was the first 5-star, and it may be the only, I really hope it's not, but it may be the only one that comes out of this challenge. It just gave me all the feelings that I really wanted in a romance book that I have not gotten until this point, especially this year. So good, highly recommend, and it's definitely a keep for me. I love that this challenge allowed me to view 10 more books that I felt were I willing was I willing to keep them or unhaul them and donate them to various places. So that was that. And then the final book of the challenge, we're already here, is Dear Wendy by Anne Zhao. And this is special to me because I believe this was the first author that I hosted her launch event for. And let me just make sure I'm not, yes, she, her. But yes, and it's really cute because it's dated, as you can see, very kind of scribbly, but April 17th of this year was when I hosted her launch event. And that doesn't mean that I was the conversation partner. That was the lovely Sarah Farazan, who, if you have not checked out her work, she is extraordinary and so hilarious, and I will literally go to any author event that she is a conversation partner for. But with this event, what it meant to host was that I introduced the author and I closed out the event and I helped set up and I helped break down, and it was very, very wholesome for me, and kind of a full circle moment, as I've been going to author events a ton before working in this bookstore that I work in, where there's many an event all the time. So Dear Wendy is filled with romantic, asexual representation. I want to make sure I'm accurate in what I'm saying. It's her first year in college. The main character is Sophie Chi, and she's at a Wellesley College, kind of fictionalized version of that school. I'm not familiar with that college, but it is local to where I live in Massachusetts. And this follows an Instagram account that offers relationship advice to students at her school. And no one knows that Sophie's behind the Dear Wendy account. And it's dual perspective. We follow the other character, Jo, who is also a first-year Aero Ace, which is a romantic and asexual student. And she created Sincerely Wanda. And it was meant to be like a joke account, but it actually sparks a rivalry with Sophie's account, Dear Wendy. So this is mainly what I've heard, a friendship story. And I think that young adult books especially need more friendship-based stories, because what's been happening in the young adult sphere is there is so much more romance-focused or romance-based stories that makes it hard for me as a bookseller to sell to a parent, especially, who doesn't want their kids to be reading romance books at that age. You know, it is a typical thing to hear in the bookstores. So with that, to have this kind of story out in the world now makes me very excited. And I like that it's short chapters. That's a plus for me. It's fairly short. It's kind of that multimedia aspect where it has text messages, or before the beginnings of each chapter, just about, there's these fun little pages. Like you can see, I just want to get it going on like these, with some more multimedia aspects to it. So this is the last one, and my goals are, I got a little sidetracked because of a work headache today. They typically happen when I don't have caffeine, and I wanted to read some of this tonight. I don't think it'll happen. I go in to work around 12, so I have some time before work if I wake up early enough to begin reading, and I have Sunday, Monday off. So that means it's very possible that I could finish this before the end of the year. And yeah, that makes me very excited. I think this challenge really pushed my boundaries, and it's kind of shown me a lot about my reading tastes in a way. I intend to kind of wrap up all of my feelings in the very end of this video. So yeah, I'm excited. So it is December 30th of 2024, and I just finished the last book of the challenge, Dear Wendy, and I just want to say that I am so grateful that this book exists now. It's been a year and a half just about since I graduated from college, and this was really great in that it brought me back to being a freshman on a college campus and dealing with making new friends and college drama versus high school drama and living independently and, you know, navigating things either independently without much adult input, as well as handling conflict and challenging times with friends. And so I thought this was really sweet. It also had really excellent conversations in the book regarding, you know, Arrow Ace people and their experiences. The two main characters are Arrow Ace. You know, even conversations if you're Arrow or if you're Ace, if you're asexual or if you're aromantic, which I thought was very interesting as well. There was also really awesome conversations about gender and women studies. It's set at Wesley College, which I didn't know was a historically women's college, for living in Massachusetts and not hearing that. And so that was just so, this book is so wholesome, and the main characters, Sophie and Joe, they come to life. Like, you reading this, it was really hard for me to feel like these people do not exist, because Anne did such an excellent job of fully fleshing them out to be their own individual characters with so much depth and experience. And you can tell there's a lot of research and time and care that she took into considering many different aspects to just everything that goes on within this book. So this was so good and such a amazing pick to wrap this up, this challenge up. And so with that, let's get into some of my thoughts about this challenge and this month overall. So, time to wrap this up. I would give my fiance an A for the overall challenge, overall selection. He did a fantastic job picking titles from my collection at random, and I trusted him. I thought he would do a great job, and I think he did. He picked a diverse amount of literature from my collection, from novels in verse to 2025 releases to short stories to books that have a variety of different characters and perspectives, and it was really a fulfilling time. If I were to give my overall average rating off the top of my head for all the books together, I would probably do a 3.75. Nothing was lower than a 3-star, beyond the couple of DNFs, but I'm not gonna rate those. And yeah, it was just, especially the last 3 books that were absolute bangers. I thought that this challenge was really, really fun, and him and I plan to do this each year in December because it just was so exciting to unwrap a book at random that I don't know anything of what it is, and it was just really exciting. We don't do, or we're not in a place where we can really do surprise presents. We do shopping sprees for ourselves. And so just being able to unwrap something in December was just, it gave me such nice feelings inside. And so, yeah, Before I really get into each individual title for this wrap, I want to just give you all kind of a future 2025, what to expect from me and this channel. I am doing this more for fun. I figure that my reading tastes are not what you'll see with other booktubers or TikToks and reels and posts on Instagram, all that stuff. And so I want to find a new community here with BookTube like I haven't had with Bookstagram. And so some of the books you'll see on my channel may not be what you'll see in the common sphere. And so I just want to promote diverse, queer, underrated books that you may not have seen anywhere else. And I think that's really exciting for me. And if you want to follow along with that journey, subscribe, give it a like. Yeah, and more of what my channel will be are monthly challenges, and I'll do like monthly posting, hopefully. And so for January, what to expect is I'll be doing a couple of my most anticipated 2025 releases from the advanced reader copies that I've gathered from work or from being sent to me, etc. And so I'll be sharing my thoughts with some of the books coming out in 2025, and I'm excited for what I've picked out of my assortment of those books. And I have a bigger 2025 project for the entire year that I'll hopefully wrap up in December of 2025. So if you want to follow along for those journeys, please subscribe. Like I said, I'm doing this more for fun. So with that, let's get into the overall. In December, I DNF'd 2 books out of the 10, and those were The Ballad of Darcy and Russell by Morgan Matson. My problems with this was the writing, the initial start of this book, the dialogue conversations between the two characters on page 40 was just so unfortunately cringeworthy for me, and that's why I had to unfortunately DNF it. And it's nothing against Morgan Matson and her work. I think that her work is very fun, very wholesome. I've read a good amount of her catalog, her backlog, and I've enjoyed them for the most part. From what I remember, I've given them all probably 3 out of 5 star ratings, unfortunately. So like, it's just middle of the road. But if you're looking for a contemporary summer read, Morgan Matson is the person to go to. Unfortunately, this latest release did not work for me. And the other book that I DNF'd is One Last Chance to Live, and I got 70 pages into it. Both of these books I DNF'd, I gave a good shot. But this author has written a lot, and I have not read any of their work prior to this, and I was excited because it was like a journal format, and I usually love things like that, but this just was not. I didn't like the main character. I didn't like the story where it was going either. And I found myself not getting excited about anything I was reading, and it was kind of dragging. So unfortunately, I decided to DNF it. But I did read 8 books out of the 10, and that is really awesome. So with that, I'll just pick up at random what I read, give brief overviews, reviews, and we'll get into that. So Reverie by Ryan LaSala. I love Ryan LaSala's latest 2 books, The Honeys and Beholder. And this is their debut, or his debut book, and it was just okay. I loved the imagination in this story. I have a lot of trouble explaining the plot because it's a very advanced. Like, there's a lot of parts to it that don't make sense unless you're reading this book. And as much as I wanted to adore this, unfortunately, it was a kind of middle of the road story for me. You can definitely tell that it is a debut book, And unfortunately, those flaws coming through lowered my rating quite significantly at the end of it. And yeah, as much as I love Ryan LaSala as a person and love their latest works, this unfortunately did not resonate with me. But I feel like it'll be really useful to a queer teen that's trying to navigate their sexuality and maybe their gender. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to be unhauling this. I'm going to put it in my little free library and hope that the right person picks this up and adores it. And then one of the latest books that I read in the challenge, Summer Fridays. This was so good, and it's everything that I would love in a romance book in general. Like, this is more a fiction novel in the greater scheme of things, but I feel like for romances, this is absolutely something that people would gravitate towards. And I believe I mentioned that I would consider it a mix of One Last Stop and Funny Story by Emily Henry, and One Last Stop is by Casey McQuestion. And yeah, this was just so refreshing, so wholesome, so heartbreaking, all the emotions. For 400 pages, I flew through it, and it really is tough for me to fly through 400 pages with non-short chapters. Like, it was fairly short chapters, but not as short as some of the other books on this challenge. And yeah, so this is definitely a keep on my shelf. And speaking of keeps, the other really great book I read was The Breakup Lists, and this was great. I feel like if I were in high school, if I were to redo high school, I would love to be a theater kid. Unfortunately, the school that I went to did not have a theater program, so unfortunately, my dreams of being a theater kid were not anywhere in my sights. And I did try in college, but yeah, I didn't grow up with all of that. But anytime I read a novel involving theater and high school, it's always so dramatic and it's so wholesome in the end. And I just love all the things of this novel. And it was queer, and the representation was so good. And yeah, I could go on and on about how fantastic this book is. So I highly recommend this as well, and it's a keep on my shelf. And then I read Once Upon an Eid, which is the short story collection with 15 Muslim authors, all writing cute, wholesome stories about Eid and different families, different experiences surrounding this religious celebration. I'm unfortunately not sure how I should phrase it, but I believe that's how it is. It's a celebration for sure. And yeah, I unfortunately wished it was a young adult book because that's just more of what I read. However, for middle grade readers, I think this is a fantastic resource, and it's another keep. Literally all the rest of these books are keeps on my shelf, so I won't keep saying that. The next one is a book that comes out in February, Capitana, and from my thoughts earlier in this video, I thought it was just okay. I really wanted to love it because I love pirates, but this is not a pirate centered story. It's about pirates, but it's about hunting them down and giving them their due diligence, or however you want to phrase it. And yeah, I hated that it was meant to be more of that romantasy-esque thing that a lot of publishers are trying to push for their books these days. Young adult books don't need that. They really don't. And it makes it so much harder to sell to parents, especially because they're the ones mostly buying the books for these teens. And so yeah, I think if you like romantasy, if you like more romance-centered things, I would recommend. If you like a good betrayal, this had a pretty solid one. I love a good betrayal, but yeah, it was just okay. I definitely wanted more from this, and who knows what the finished copy will end up being like, because advanced reader copies are not the final. But yeah, it was okay. And this is kind of an iffy feeling, really, on whether I will hold on to it or not. For now, I will. And then the other 2025 release is All the Blues in the Sky by Renee Watson, and this is excellent. And Renee Watson is someone that I really want to read more of their work, because their voice is just so endearing. It's captivating. It's rich. That's how I would describe it. Even for a middle grade novel in verse, it's packed with emotion, with thinking, with thoughts, with just color. Like, obviously this book is blue, different shades of blue. It's just, yeah, it's great. And I really hope this sells well. I think a lot of young kids do grieve and have experienced grief, and could definitely use this as a resource. And then A Starlet's Secret to a Sensational Afterlife was the kickoff to this challenge, and it slaps. Like, it is so good. I love the characters. I love the dynamic. This is definitely a book that deserves romance, and it was so fun to watch it unfold. And yeah, like, especially now, like, something like this story is very relevant to what's going on with the It Ends With Us drama and that whole thing. I never watched that movie. I don't read Colleen Hoover. I don't really care, but I love drama. And so just something like this, and women and girls getting justice with Hollywood, yeah, this is definitely fitting for these times, and I believe it will remain, unfortunately, very relevant to current matters. So this is a treasure in my collection now. And the final book from this challenge, Dear Wendy, is now always going to hold even more of a special place in my heart than it already did. And I really wish I was able to read this when I hosted the author for her launch event, because I would have had so many great things to say in that introduction. But yeah, I just want to thank you all for watching, and I really hope I'll be able to create more videos and talk about more books to you all. And yeah, life is great. Books are great. I'm just very thankful to my fiance, to this challenge. I still am trying to nail down what books really excite me. What books will I automatically love no matter what, no matter who the writer. I love contemporary books the most, but more on a realistic fiction, not so much a romance standpoint. I love wholesomeness. I love uniqueness. I love stories that aren't copy paste. Some things like plots with bizarre subjects. And yeah, it's great to be able to read these books and to give them hopefully the attention that they deserve. And yeah, so be well, and hope to see you next month.